Coming up on this episode of Strong Place.
I think it's a calling. Being a therapist or counselor or psychologist is a calling in life, and it definitely called me. I never imagined myself being in this line of work, but now that's all I see myself doing.
Welcome to another episode of Strong Place by Mental Health America of Central Carolinas. I am Io Johnson, Executive Director. Today I have with me Dr. Shiricka Fair. Dr. Fair utilizes evidence-based practices to increase mental wellness for individuals, families, and organizations. A licensed marriage and family therapist in North and South Carolina, Dr. Fair challenges you to re-examine your relationships, one of the most important aspects of your professional and personal life. Her unique experience as a clinician enables her to provide a fresh experience so others grow into their future. A global digital mental health expert, she ignites new paradigms through creating transformative experiences. With a vast array of speaking engagements at numerous Fortune 500 companies, Dr. Fair has graced the world stage in China, Brazil, the Bahamas, and Spain. In addition to numerous licenses and certifications, she has a bachelor's degree in computer information systems, a master's degree in marriage and family therapy, and a PhD in international psychology, organizational leadership, and development. Welcome to Strong Place, Dr. Fair.
Thank you.
You and I had an opportunity to talk a couple of weeks ago and get to know each other a little bit, and we were just kind of like talking like we were old girlfriends and we had known each other for a while. So I'm looking forward to this interview.
Me too.
And it's gonna be more like a conversation,
okay.
But I think we're gonna have a great talk today. I want to just start by asking you to share a little bit about your personal mental health journey.
Okay. So I started out, as you mentioned, I started out in information technology, and mental health became a larger part of my life when I entered into the field of marriage and family therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, I really didn't think too much about mental health. I had an understanding, loved ones had experienced various mental illness, but prior to entering the field, I really didn't kind of think about mental wellness. Transitioning from IT, I was laid off from my position. It was a major moment in my life, a major milestone. And during that time, I had the opportunity to take some time off, and I reflected on my experiences and my well-being, and I felt led to transition into mental health, marriage and family therapy, rather than working on defects or problems in a computer application, helping people work on problems in life. And rather than enhancing the functionality of a computer application, helping people to enhance the quality of life for themselves. So mental health became the forefront of my life because I was offering it to others. And so I took the opportunity to kind of look at my approach to mental health and how mental health showed up in my life, my personal life. And I kind of started with my grandmother, my maternal grandmother. She always celebrated me. I was the first granddaughter. And so she made me feel special and made me celebrate my life. And everything that I was able to achieve throughout my life, she always celebrated it. And so that has always been a part of my mental health journey now. Gotcha. Celebrating the small wins, taking the time to enjoy life and celebrate my birthday. I take a trip in honor of her every year somewhere different, usually in the Caribbean. And she's allowed me to be mindful of my life and expressing gratitude and just enjoying every moment, seizing the moment. So that's a major part of my mental health. And I like to consider myself as a traveler in life
Mm-hmm.
and a traveler of life. So in life, like I said, I enjoy the Caribbean where I can look down and see my toes
Mm-hmm.
and see what's coming in. And then I enjoy joining people in their journey, wherever they are in life,
Mm-hmm.
whatever experience that they are, the place that they're in life, whether it's a place of celebration, sadness, depression, or transition.
Mm-hmm.
Just joining them in that place and traveling with them to where they would like to be, where they are now, and then where they would like to be,
Right.
their ideal destination in life, and stepping them through that process of getting them to where they would like to be in life.
Take me to the day that you get laid off from your IT career. My mom had a long career in IT, and you know, it goes through its kind of roller coaster things. She went through like different mergers and things like that. But take me to the day you get laid off and you decide to kind of take a break. What was that process like for you, being able to get, I guess, introspective as you decided what you were going to do next in your next chapter?
It was a place of anger and frustration because I did not expect it.
Mm-hmm.
It came out of nowhere. I felt like I was in senior management, executive, and I was doing a great job. I was spending a lot of time. My whole life was really my position because I was in charge of managing software configuration management, and we had teams offshores internationally. And so there was a time difference, right? And so I was staying up at night trying to accommodate everything and then to train them, and then my position gets totally outsourced to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was angry and
Right.
Just couldn't believe that this was happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided everything happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very involved in my church, and we had like a counseling ministry at our church. I did a lot of youth ministry at my church, and I was doing counseling there. We had a lay counseling ministry that gave us training in Christian counseling.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that place, I started spending more time in lay counseling.
Mm-hmm.
And I also ended up traveling to 8 different countries. And so the world opened up to me, and the world inside of me in terms of marriage and family therapy opened up to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was clear to me that that's the route that I needed to go.
Was there something internally that said, because there's so many different avenues into therapy, so many different types of therapy, some different niches. What made you choose marriage and family specifically? Was it your own family dynamic, or was it just like a mentor said, hey, I think you might be good at this?
Well, I had never heard of marriage and family therapy, and I resisted it initially when I heard it. Like, I know God was directing me because I was not married. I did not have children. And so I was reluctant to go into that aspect because I'm like, what am I going to offer to people if I'm not married and I don't have any children? And I heard clearly from God that you're not going to have every condition of the people that are going to be in front of you. You will have the skill set. You will have the heart. You will have the ears. You will have the knowledge to help them be healed. When people go to a doctor, if they're experiencing cancer, they don't ask the doctor if the doctor has cancer, right?
Great point.
So they just want to know that, can you help me receive healing? And so I submitted to that journey. And when I look back at the components of my life and the things that matter, my skill sets, my passions, marriage and family therapy is unique in regards to the systemic lens of life, we look at not just if a child is misbehaving, we look at the parental system. We have additional interventions and techniques that help the whole system. And I think that increases the probability of success in therapy when you say, for instance, if someone has experienced substance use, when they go to recovery center, the family has no idea what they experienced during that time and how to support them when they come back. Marriage and family therapy approach allows us to have those additional techniques and interventions to include the entire family in that process, so that when that individual comes home, you know how to support that person.
Right.
And you kind of understand some of the things that they experienced while they were in the recovery center. So I think that's important for mental health and for therapy, for us to have a systemic perspective and relational, because no man is an island. We all need each other. And so marriage and family therapy provided that lens for me like no other aspect of mental health professionals.
Right. You mentioned about traveling to different countries. So you've been able to experience different cultures. What has been your experience or your takeaway from how other cultures deal with their mental wellness or approach mental wellness different from how we do in the United States?
Okay, I love that. I think when I went to Brazil, I studied the integrative healthcare model, and 90% of the women in Brazil experience natural childbirth. So
no pain medicine.
No pain medicine. So from the beginning, life has no drugs, right?
Right.
So the dependency on drugs is not there. And so I think our dependency on drugs and getting a prescription is higher than Brazil. It has its advantages and disadvantages. Every culture does. But their approach in doing that and going back to the earth and using more herbal medicine as well as their community approach. So they have mental health professionals that they have a community worker, and that community worker had 300 people assigned to them to make sure that their mental health was taken care of. So it was a village approach. It was more collective, more community, where the person that made sure that you were well was in the community, that you would see them. Of course, the technology wasn't as advanced. However, the humanity was, right? And I think that's the most important thing when it comes to mental health, is the humanity part, not just prescriptions and diagnosing, but the humanity of mental wellness.
Like all the different countries that you've traveled to, which experience do you think stands out the most to you, maybe had the deepest impact for you?
I think Shanghai, China had an impact, and then Bahamas. Shanghai, China had an impact because it was more gender equality and the access to opportunities that women had.
Really?
So normally when you think of China, you think of a patriotic society. However, the women there felt like they had just equal opportunity to advancement. And the reason why they felt that way is because they were not required to choose between their career and their child. So many times in the U.S., women are required to, if they choose their career, then it's like my child is going to be taken care of by someone that is not a part of who I am, like a daycare center.
Right.
And they will spend most of their time there. And if you choose your child, then you're kind of worried about your career. And once your child go back to school, then how will I blend back into my career? And so they had a support system at home, right? Their parents were a part of their support system. And so they were able to have the best of both worlds. They were able to have their career and their child. So the pressure of splitting themselves
Mm-hmm.
and the stress of determining which your career or your child, it wasn't a place of stress for them. And so they felt like they had every opportunity to be in leadership and to be there for their children as well. So that was a surprise for me.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have the best of both worlds as a woman.
That's really surprising.
Yes, very surprising. And then in the Bahamas, it was a combination of all my passions
Mm-hmm.
that I really enjoyed. In terms of, I did my dissertation on telehealth, and it was the perspective of utilizing teletherapy from the mental health professional standpoint. If they had the opportunity to provide teletherapy, would they be willing to provide teletherapy? And then from the client's perspective, if they would be open to receiving teletherapy. And this was before COVID.
Right.
Yeah. And so it allowed me to bring my technology background, my psychology background, and then Bahamas, which is one of my favorite places to go because of the clear water.
Right.
So it combined all three together into one. And it was surprising that when COVID hit and everybody was using teletherapy, I was like, man, this is amazing, because my research said that patients felt, or clients felt, very comfortable, which in the Bahamas, it was a lot of University of Bahamas students, and 100% of them said if teletherapy was available, they would definitely be open to receive mental health services through teletherapy. And it was about 80% of mental health professionals there that stated that they would be open to receive teletherapy, but some of the body language and the cues that you would miss if you're not in person. They had the 20% that said they wouldn't be open. They would still prefer to do traditional, was because of that personal connection and body language and everything. But everybody shifted when COVID hit. So having that research in place was good for me, and it allowed me to become a forerunner in that aspect of providing mental health services.
I am curious as to how working in this field shapes your own approach to relationships, right? So not mental health, but just relationship in general. Because I'm sure you sit through sessions and you hear a little bit of everything, right? So, are you like, okay, I'm good on dating, I'm good on relationships, because I see too much of the wild stuff going on. Like, how do you separate, or can you?
Initially, when I first started in the field, it was difficult to separate the two. I would carry my clients home. I would think about their experiences and how I could help them. And then finally, I realized it's their experience, right? And I have my own experience. They have their life and I have my life. I can't live their life. They cannot live mine. I can join them in their journey, but it's not my responsibility to take their experiences from them. It's my responsibility as a therapist to allow them to see the options where they are and the options of where they can go, and provide those tools and resources for them to find the best path for them in their lives. And so I started putting in place different exercises, like listening to the waves in between sessions to cleanse me and allow me to release their experiences to them and grab hold of my experiences. And that has helped a lot. And now I look at relationships and clients when they come in with different concerns or challenges. It's just an experience in life that they're currently having. It kind of skewed my look at relationships, because things can look perfectly fine on social media but behind scenes, it's a whole nother story. And it's an honor to see people in the different phases of life and to be a part of improving whatever condition they come in with, being a part of making it better.
Right.
So personally, I'm very analytical. And most of the time when I date individuals and I tell them what I do for a living, they're like, "Are you going to analyze me now?" No, I'm off duty. Like I'm not working right now.
Right.
So I take pleasure in just being me, and not operating in that role a lot, because it takes a major capacity for you to do. I think it called me and I didn't call it.
Right.
I think it's a calling. Being a therapist or counselor or psychologist is a calling in life. And it definitely called me. I never imagined myself being in this line of work, but now that's all I see myself doing. And having that capacity to sit with someone in the most difficult time in their life, making that space, I think is crucial. So I sit myself on the couch a lot, and I have my own therapist because I want to be available for my client.
Right.
People can tell when you're there, but not there.
Right.
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 You this is a line of work that you cannot fake it, and it's a matter of life and death.
Right.
So I take it very seriously, and I try to make sure that what I'm saying, I'm walking the walk that I'm talking. Yeah.
Right. I think I heard you say a couple of things about how you take care of your own mental health. Because I never heard about this before, listening to waves in between your sessions to cleanse. And I immediately started thinking about, I'm going to start building in some time in between meetings or whatever, or maybe if I'm driving from one to another, to maybe to listen to something that's cleansing, because you can't, sometimes you don't show up 100% in the next thing because your mind is still on the last. So that's really, really good. I want to make sure we meet that point. And then also having a therapist. I've been working in nonprofit for over 2 decades. But this is my first time with MHA working in mental health. And since I joined, one of the things I realized I had to do was prioritize getting back into therapy, because I prioritize trying to make sure that the staff are good. But when you are doing that, you take on a lot. And when you add it to your own stuff, it gets real heavy. It gets really heavy. And then when you're leading an organization on top of that, it's even heavier because the weight of leadership, and I know you have a degree also in leadership, and so I want to talk about that, but that weight of leadership. And I try not to be the queen of compartmentalization anymore, because my therapist is telling me, like, yeah, that's not always that good. You do, or maybe getting too good at it that, well, I won't even go to all the diagnosis, but so I like that idea of like cleansing in between and being able, I think, to, when my day gets long, sometimes it's just meeting after meeting after meeting, and taking those few minutes in between. So I heard that, having a therapist, which is key. And for me, I know it's been life-changing. I did it because of the personal experiences, but also the weight of the job. But I see the benefits. I feel like I show up better because I go to therapy. Do you have any other self-care practices that you do just to help you to like manage through? I would imagine it's just a lot. You're taking on a lot of people's
experiences. Yeah. I have the breathing, which is so valuable. When you think about when we come into this world, the doctor makes sure that we're breathing right. And then when we leave this world, we take our last breath. And so there's so much power in just the breath. while we're here, not just when we come into the world and not when we, leave the world, but also while we're in the world. So taking that time to take in deep breaths and breathe through your nose and holding it to 4 and then just blowing everything out. Just taking that time to just breathe in and breathe out. You don't have to pay for that.
Right.
But it helps your body to reset itself, to calm, to get centered again. So I do that as often as possible as well, just those breathing exercises.
Yeah, I use those also, especially when I'm like really stressed out. That breathing helps.
Yeah, definitely. And then I do typically, like today, we were talking earlier, I'm not used to talking about myself, so I was a little nervous. I'm used to listening to other people. And so I made sure that I have a necklace that says live, laugh, and love. So I wear things that remind me to do live, laugh, and love. And so this morning, I knew I was doing the interview, so I made sure that I listened to something funny so I could laugh. And I try to laugh every day. Laughter is truly good for the soul, good medicine for the soul. So sometimes it's laughing at myself, just making sure that I get laughter in, sunlight, going outside, because you can have meetings back to back and not even experience what it's like outside.
Right.
You have no idea what the weather feels like outside. So I try to make sure I go outside. I love nature. So I enjoy just walking barefoot in a park, in the grass and green. Sometimes I even lay. I have a blanket in my car, and I go to any parks that's nearby, Freedom Park or Lake Norman, Lake Wiley, and I lay the blanket out and I just lay on the earth, because Mother Earth has been carrying things a long time.
Right.
And so I can release it back to the earth and get grounded. So I do that. Nature, a lot of things with nature. I love coloring. So I do that.
I do that too.
Yes.
I have an adult coloring book. I love it. It's so relaxing.
It is. And then I help other people do like self-care kit. A lot of times I have a group of females that I hang out with. We have mastermind groups, and then I have other sets of single females, couples, like females with different backgrounds and individuals that really pour into me. So I'm trying to be intentional on the people that I'm around that enhance.
Yeah.
That enhance my mental wellness and not just take away from it, to balance that out. When you're pouring into your clients, they don't have to pour back into you, and they're not required to care about what you have going on in your life.
Right.
So to balance that out, making sure that I spend time with people that do care about what's going on in my life, and they pour into my life as well.
Right. That's really good. So her breathing, nature, sunlight, personal connection, right? And like you said, these things are free. So there's no excuse for us to not take care of our mental wellness.
Yeah, I do all the other stuff that costs too. Like the spas. I like my pedicures, my manicures, my massage. I have my self-care team where I have a certain person that does my hair. I have a certain person that does my nails, my feet, my massage, my just yoga. I have certain places and they're part of my self-care team.
I never thought of it like that. I haven't started right now. I gotta figure out what my self-care team is. I know a couple of them, but I never really thought of it as a team. Self-care is kind of like a catchphrase now. Like mental health and mental wellness. Everybody's talking about self-care. But even if these people don't know each other, because a lot of times they don't, I never thought about that being a team approach.
Yeah.
Right.
They help you show up as your best.
They really do.
And they're part of you being well,
Right.
like making sure that you show up at your best and being well. So, yeah, that's important. And then the internal checks.
Mhm.
Like, if no one else asks me that day, how are you doing? I check in with myself. How are you doing? Because if something's wrong with me, I want to be the first one to know, right?
Mhm.
And so taking the time to sit down and check in and say, how are you doing? Like,
Right.
and pause it. And a lot of times I just put my hand on my heart and I listen to my own heartbeat
Mm.
and I listen to my own breathing
Mhm.
and I take the time to listen to my own thoughts, like taking that journey within. You know, I said I love to travel and I travel in life and I take the time to travel into the different spaces of my own being. You know, I ask myself, how have you been feeling lately? Like, who or what has been adding to your joy?
Right.
Like, when were the moments that you experienced joy this week?
Mhm.
When were the moments that you were frustrated this week? And I kind of check in terms of my passion, because I believe that passions don't last forever. You know, in your career, you may be passionate about providing direct clinical services, or you may be passionate about teaching, or you may be passionate about speaking. Kind of checking in to see if it's time to do something different.
Right.
Like, if you check your schedule, I think part of work-life balance, as we say, is being aware when things have ended and
Necessary
shifting.
endings.
Yeah, and shifting
Necessary
accordingly.
endings, yeah.
If your passion is not there anymore, it's okay.
Mhm.
If you're not passionate about doing XYZ and it's a part of your job, find out how you can shift your day and pay attention to the things that you're most excited to do in your position and in your career. And the things that you're not so excited to do, can you shift that over to someone else
Mhm.
for this particular time in your career? If you're able to spend more time on the things that you're more passionate about, you're going to be more productive, right?
Right.
Rather than trying to balance all these different responsibilities and dreading majority of the things that you are called to do as a result of being in this position.
Right.
So kind of looking at what part of my job or my career do I enjoy the most right now?
Mhm.
And how can I do more of that in my day?
Right.
And how can I maybe delegate or shift some of these responsibilities, these other responsibilities, to my other team? And maybe there's something that someone else would like to do that you don't enjoy doing, but somebody else as a leader, this is a growth moment or a growth opportunity for them, and they would love to be able to do it.
Right.
So just checking in with yourself and mentally, emotionally, physically, and then career-wise, like, how are you feeling?
Right. Do you think if you hadn't been laid off that you would have ever shifted, or do you think you would have just stayed in IT?
I definitely would have stayed in IT.
Do you miss it?
Because it was, I still dabble in it. I will
Okay.
never leave that part, because I was one of the only Black females to graduate with that degree.
Mhm.
And a lot of time in undergrad was spent in the computer lab learning that. And I've always, like, from 6th grade, I don't know where this came from, but I said, I'm going to University of South Carolina and I'm majoring in computer information systems. So that will always be a part of what I do.
Mhm.
And I think technology is the key. Regardless of what we're doing, technology can never be left behind or
Right.
left out.
Right.
And so the principles that I learned in technology apply across the board. So that gives me a whole system point of view. Like I said, I spent a lot of time programming. And so in human services or counseling, the programming comes from our belief system, our thought patterns, our emotions. So that technology education gave me the foundation principles of how we work together as people. It's different. It's a different process. Instead of system development life cycle, it's the human development life cycle.
Right.
Instead of the components of a computer or components of an application, like the business requirements or what this application is actually supposed to do, you're looking at how people actually want their life to work, right? How they want to function in their relationships, what's ideal for their marriage, or what's ideal for their children. What are the dreams and visions that they have for their children? So it helps me to look at it from an extended view.
Right.
And not just like one-sided. So technology will always be a part of what I do in some shape or form.
I love how you're able to make that connection, because I don't think a lot of people would think to connect information systems or computers to life and to human development. So that's actually really interesting. What would you think of as like the next phase for you? You got a PhD, you've been all around the world, but what do you think you want to do next?
A couple of things. One is making sure that technology stays human-centric. Whatever technology is supposed to be designed to elevate humanity. So making sure that humanity stays in technology. A lot of artificial intelligence is, that's the trend now in terms of replacing jobs. However, it's artificial. It's not human intelligence. Human intelligence creates artificial intelligence. And so just making sure that stays at the forefront in terms of the utilization of technology, making sure that families come closer together rather than further apart because of the use of technology. So doing a little research in terms of making sure that it's human-centric. Technology is human-centric. Another aspect that I would like to do is to write books and articles and do more research on best practices. I'm African American, so I would like to understand more globally, not just African American, but in Africa, in other parts of the Caribbean, what's the best model or prototype for marriages when it comes to African families? What's the best model for the parental system, and families in general? What's the ideal model for us to function at our best level? What are the components required for African couples to make love last, right? And function at the highest level? What does it look like for our families that go through so much, our African families, to see them whole? A lot of times I see brokenness, right? And trauma and pain.
Right.
What does it look like, and what's required for us to function at our highest level? Doing more research about that and making sure that that model is there for us to replicate and support. Like we had the Cosby Show, and that was, quote unquote, supposedly
right
before all this stuff happened with Bill. But just understanding what that looks like now in the various parts of the world, doing research on that, and retiring. I'm not working my whole life. Like, that's not, so putting myself in a position where I can take seasons off. There are seasons where I will work and seasons where I will not work. And so that's very important for me to have a time and a place where I'm not working.
Right. Right.
I think my father really put that in me, the way he lived and his transition. He unfortunately was diagnosed with ALS, which is a horrible condition. And day in and day out, he didn't know. He was 60 years old when he was diagnosed, and he didn't know what he was going to be able to do every day.
Right.
But he seized the moment, carpe diem. Like, he seized every moment and squeezed every bit of joy, every bit of love and peace that he could from this life on this side.
Right.
And that is forever engraved on my heart. And that's part of his legacy that he leaves to me. And I think a lot of times as African-American women, we work ourselves to death. We take care of everyone else and we exclude ourselves and we wear ourselves out and we work ourselves to death. And so I'm taking on my father's legacy in terms of squeezing as much love and joy and peace and goodness, the things that matter the most in life, getting every ounce of that out of my life and trying to live my best life.
Amen. Amen. I really enjoyed our conversation today. Tell the audience the legacy that you want to leave. If you could just leave one thing with them, what would that be?
I would say live your best life. Whatever your best life looks like to you, whatever it looks like for you to function at your highest level, what does it look like for you to live life at the highest level? Know what that looks like, know what that feels like, write that out, and take the steps necessary to make sure that you live your best life.
That's good. Thank you, Dr. Shiricka Fair, for joining us today on Strong Place. I really enjoyed our conversation. And would you like to tell all the audience also where they can find you on social media?
Okay, sure. So my agency is Provisions Counseling Services, and I provide counseling services for individuals and couples and organizations. And I also have Provisions Wellness Solutions. It's for corporate clients and entrepreneurs that really want to live a life of wellness and making mental wellness a priority.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Fair.
Thank you.
Appreciated having you today. Thank you for joining us.